Richardson, and it's that time, I was going to say that time of the year again, it's that time of the week again to do a Facebook Live, and I am really excited to be here with all of you, and I look forward to taking your questions, and I actually have a couple of questions that came in on Facebook before the live session. Somebody had written a couple of things I just wanted to point out. Let's see. Judy had posted on my Facebook wall that her friend, she wanted me to include her friend Alicia in my prayer book, which I have done. She is in here, Judy. Alicia's having heart surgery on Friday, unexpected heart surgery, and it's a scary surgery. So I put her in a heart. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? There we go. I put her in a heart in the prayer book. Healthy heart. And it would be really good anytime a loved one is experiencing something like that, going through any kind of surgery or medical care where it feels really scary to us. It's really good to do things. You know, Louise Hay told me one time, she and I were traveling in London together. And for those of you that don't know, Louise Hay wrote a book called Heal Your Life many, many years ago. She was a pioneer who named the reality that what we think influences the body and influences our reality. I mean, she talked about the mind-body connection. Very early on, she looked at the emotional causes, the emotional causes of physical illness. And her book, You Can Heal Your Life, is a very powerful book. It's sold probably, I think, over 50 million copies in the United States, in the world. And Louise and I were traveling together. We were working on a book together that I published a few years back called You Can Create an Exceptional Life. And my mother was taken to the hospital one night. Louise and I were in London together. It was about 11:15 at night over there. And I received word that my mother was rushed to the hospital. And I was so upset, of course. I felt so far away. And but I remembered something Louise had said when we were working on the book together. She talked about how when we're undergoing any kind of surgery or medical intervention, that we want to do things like, we want to affirm every hand that touches my body is a healing hand. So I was affirming any hand that touches my mother's body is a healing hand. My mother is surrounded by loving caregivers. My mother feels peaceful and calm. Like Louise had said to me, it doesn't do our loved ones any good whatsoever to be worrying about them, to be imagining the worst, to be focused on the bad things that could happen. Instead, it's always much better to hold the light, to really affirm what you want to have happen for them in the most positive way. And, it turned out that my mother ended up being fine. She was released from the hospital that next morning. I felt better going to bed. I didn't feel so out of control. I mean, that was the point. There are things we can do. So, Judy, I want to just say to you, and anybody else who may be undergoing your own medical intervention, or you have someone in your life that has some medical stuff going on that you're worried about, just start affirming. The perfect caregivers are taking care of your loved ones. Every hand that touches them is a healing hand. They feel peaceful and calm. They're surrounded by peaceful and calm energy, healing energy. Picture them in surrounded by light, healing light. All of these things matter. It's working with energy. And we now know, and we've known for a while now, quantum physics says that, the observer of anything influences what happens. So whatever you might be observing in your life, you are influencing what's happening to what you observe. So you might as well make it a positive experience, right? You might as well influence what you're observing in some kind of a positive way. And to me, that's what those kinds of affirmations can do. Along with, of course, having your feelings about it, talking to safe people, being able to just express your fears and your concerns. We have to be able to honor our feelings in any given situation. And then at some point we say, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath here and focus on what I do have control over. And that is my thinking and the energy that I put into the situation. So Judy, Alicia is in my book, and I'm affirming that all goes well and that her heart will be healthier and stronger after the heart surgery on Friday. Alexandra also posted on Facebook and had asked me to talk about surrendering in a relationship. She didn't say whether it was, she wanted me to talk about surrender and relationships, but she didn't say whether it was being in a relationship or out. But she asked me if I would just tell a story about that. And you know, what's really wonderful about stories can be a powerful teaching vehicle. And so I was thinking about, you know, what story I might tell related to surrendering in a relationship. And before I do that, let me back up here and just say hi to some of you that are here. Donna and Tammy, hi. He dare know. Oh my goodness, I can't pronounce the name. Sarah, Teresa, you're in my prayer book too. I got your message. Mira, Kim, hi Leanne and Robin and Jessica, Irene and Suzanne and Sarah, Frederick, Robin, Charla, hi Charla. I hope your heart is healing. Heather and Ursula and Kathy, hi Kathy. Bear Lake, John Knoll. And Greg, hey Greg, are you? Greg is walking the Camino de Santiago. Are you done yet? Or are you like actually on here over there? That's pretty amazing. Teresa and Janine and Sarah, Sharon, Debbie. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll be taking your questions in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to first just say that in regards to surrendering in a relationship, I was thinking a lot about this before I started. I started today. And I wanted to just say that our relationships, whether it be with an intimate partner, a family member, a coworker, a friend, a boss, our intimate relationships or the relationships that we have in our lives are some of the most powerful spiritual teachers we encounter. And so, as a matter of fact, Harville Hendrix, who wrote Getting the Love You Want and Keeping the Love You Find, two really important books in my life. I'll make a note to include his work in the post afterwards. Harville, I remember one time Harville and I were having lunch together and he was talking about how he believed that learning to heal our relationships, learning to be in relationship and to use our relationships as kind of a spiritual healing mechanism was really the key to healing the planet. And Harville's work is all about teaching people how to dialogue in safe and loving ways, even with difficult conversations. So it's about growing ourselves back up, tending to the young parts of us that get activated in the difficult relationships that we have, getting centered, bringing ourselves to a more adult place, and caring about creating a safe environment for the relationship to work through whatever needs to be worked through. He has a dialogue process that I'm a huge fan of, and both Michael and I, my husband Michael and I, did a year's worth of therapy based on Harville Hendrix's work before we got married, and it was one of the smartest things we ever did. I mean, honestly, if somebody had given that to us as a wedding gift, it would have been like the best gift. It was a gift we ended up giving to ourselves, and we learned how to communicate, how to stop redecorating hell, as a couples counselor once said to us, and instead actually communicate in safe ways about the things that were difficult, and to really see each other as gifts and teachers to help us grow and evolve. So I say that, Alexandra, because when you talk about surrendering in a relationship, I think first of all we have to just approach our relationships as something bigger than what we think. It's not just, oh, I'm in a relationship with this man, or I'm in a relationship with this woman, this person is just a coworker or just a friend. This person is in my life for a very important reason, and they're here to help me become a better person. They're here to help me grow and evolve in some way. And so in relationships, I'm going to assume that you're talking about an intimate relationship. One of the things I've learned, having been in and out of relationships over my life, I mean, I've been married now, it'll be 20 years next week. The 19th, actually. It'll be 20 years that we've been married. We've been together 24 years. And one of the things I've really learned is that our most important relationships need to have two people who are willing to come to the table and dialogue about what's going on, and both parties need to be committed to growing in order for it to really work. When I look back in some of the relationships I was involved in before my marriage, and I had several long-term relationships, a lot of times I was in a relationship with somebody who wasn't really capable or ready or able to do the healing work necessary, wasn't really interested. I was interested, and I made sure my husband Michael was interested before I even dated him. I asked him right up front how committed he was to his own growth. So sometimes in a relationship we have to surrender the fact that we can't change the other person. We can ask to get our needs met. We can say what it is we need. We can request that you get outside intervention, outside help. Honestly, I don't know how couples live together in sane and safe ways without getting some kind of outside training, because intimate relationships are hard. Any relationship is hard. So we do, in relationships, surrender to the fact that we can't change anybody and we can't control another's behavior. It's always wise to be invested in your own growth, so that even if you're in a relationship with somebody who doesn't want to go to counseling or says that they're not really into growing or whatever, the more you go to counseling and do your own healing work, the clearer you'll be about whether or not you can stay in the relationship. And when it's time to leave, you'll know it. And you never want to leave before it's time to leave. Instead, better to stay there and learn the lessons, grow and evolve, look at yourself and why, answer some of the questions of why you're in the relationship, how you're contributing to what isn't working, what you need to heal, why you've attracted this person into your life, what this person is trying to teach you. All of those factors are important to be explored, because if you don't explore them, I promise you, you are just going to meet the same person in a different set of clothing, without a doubt. So better to do the work with the person that you're with, and then when you're ready, if it's time to leave, it's time to leave. So Alexandra, I hope that's helpful to you. I don't, without details, it's always really tricky to give advice. I would never surrender to abuse. At this point in my life, I couldn't surrender to a marriage or a relationship with a partner who wasn't willing to do their own healing work. It just wouldn't work. I would be a nightmare to live with, quite frankly, because I just would be too demanding for that. It's something I'm committed to, and I want my partner committed to that as well. I want us to be able to have open, honest conversations. Michael and I fight. We have arguments. We don't always get along. We certainly don't always see eye to eye. We're both very strong-willed and opinionated. But we care enough about the relationship to do what we need to do. And if it means getting outside help, we do that. We've had some of the best couples counselors that have contributed to us staying in a happy marriage. So I just wouldn't settle. I guess that's what I want to say. Please don't settle for less in your relationships. Please look at your part and how you're being invited to grow or to evolve in some way. Because it takes two to dance, takes two to tango, right? And so it's always important for us to look at our own situation. Our own part in the relationship. Okay. Alexandra, I hope that's helpful for you. So now let's get to your questions, shall we? Let's go ahead and post your question. If you've posted it already, you can always just copy and paste it back in, because there's a lot of people on here and I'm trying to go back and see. Greg, I see you've completed the Camino. Congratulations. That's a huge step. And I wonder how you're different. I imagine you're a different human being now that you've finished walking it. And I would encourage you to write about the man who started the Camino and the man who finished the Camino, and look at the difference between the two. Hi, Susan from Toronto. I love Toronto. All right, let's see what we have here. He dare know. You're a songwriter, and you'll sell your first book soon. The Journey. Now we'll sell my first book soon. Talks about your spiritual journey. And you'd like to translate to English to send to me. That would be great. You can connect with me right on my website, CherylRichardson.com. My assistant will get any emails that comes through there. All right, let's see. Yes, my live Facebook, Charla, my live Facebook, this is always archived on my YouTube channel. Afterwards, might take a day or two. Cheryl Richardson TV is the TV network on YouTube. And so you can find it there. Yeah, let's see. Debbie says she and her husband, Michael, read that. It's because his name's Michael, right, Debbie? You read Harville's books before you got married. That's great. Yes, it's so valuable, isn't it? Let's see. So Yesenia says, Cheryl, I haven't found a job in almost a year, and I've been doing positive affirmations and a lot of self-work to release negative issues, but still can't find anything. What do you recommend? So I suspect, Yesenia, I don't know what country you're from. Maybe you can post and let me know. If you were in the U.S., what I would say to you is, when the job search has been that long, if it's been a year, then, hold on, everybody. Oh, good. Sorry, I thought all of a sudden I could hear this noise in the kitchen, and I had a container of cupcakes on the counter, and I had a cover on it, and I was afraid Mr. Poupon was trying to get the cover off, and because he's that smart and he does that stuff all the time. But it's okay. It was really my husband, who I can't get in to come in and say hi, even though I'm talking about you, honey. Anyway, Yesenia, so if you're in this country, what I would say to you is, if it's been a year, it's really important that you get valuable feedback from an objective person, a career counselor, somebody who has helped people find jobs. Without knowing what country you're in, let's see. Are you here? Okay. I love it. You're in a Los Angeles Starbucks. Great. There you go. All right. So looking for a career counselor, somebody who can take a look at your resume, take a look at your job search strategy, take a look at how you're networking, how you're going about trying to find a job, somebody who can help you to assess your interviewing skills. All of these things are important, because if the resume isn't done right in an attractive way, when I say attractive, I mean in the way that this country, in the way that employers are typically looking at resumes, or there could be one little thing that you're not doing as well as you could on an interview that's getting you into trouble. I'll give you an example of that. Back when I used to do some recruiting work many years ago before I was a coach, one of the things I always looked for in people potential employees I was interviewing for my client, was how excited they were about the job. Very few potential employees will ever say, I'm really excited about this opportunity, and I'm so looking forward to hearing from you. Or, I'm really psyched about this job. This is a job I'd really love to do, and I'm really qualified. Nobody would ever talk about their excitement, and that was kind of a pet peeve of mine. I always wanted to feel like people were really interested and excited about the job. And when somebody didn't say that, or they were kind of, low-key about it, I often didn't even consider them for the position, unless they were enormously qualified, and then I might overlook that and explore it a little bit later on. So sometimes there are little tweaks that you can make to your job search process. For example, it is still true today that 90% of the best jobs are still acquired through networking, through somebody who knows somebody who refers you to somebody. It is not from just looking for job postings online and sending in resumes. That's the least effective way to find a position. So even if you see online that there's a company that's hiring, You want to start networking within your own personal community, friends, family. Does anybody know anybody that works at the company? You want to do research about the company online. You really want to get to know who they are. I don't care what kind of job you're going for. It's a smart practice to get into. And if you can find somebody who knows someone in that company, especially if it's local, then you can start to work your way in. So these are some of the things, without knowing those details, Yesenia, you're welcome. But these are some of the things. Please don't go longer without getting some kind of an outside assessment, because what happens is, and I understand this, I've worked with so many people, over time, every day or every month that goes by when you don't get a job, you become more and more discouraged, and you think it's about you. You know, that it's about you not doing something right, when in fact it just might be a little adjustment that has to be made. So protect your self-esteem, protect your energy and your enthusiasm by getting some outside support. I think that would be a really smart idea. All right, let's see. Hi, Emma from Sydney. I do a lot of work with entrepreneurs. One of the most frequent things that comes up is, how do I find my purpose? Can you give some insight on finding your purpose? Yeah, that's a great question, Emma. You know, that's like the $1 million question, right? Everybody wants to know. The first thing I do, let's say I'm teaching a workshop and that comes up for somebody, the first thing I want to know is, what does purpose mean to you? So I would be asking entrepreneurs, tell me what purpose means to you. And then I would be quiet and I would just let them answer that question. And I think any of you that are sort of wondering about that can ask yourself the same question. It's a great journal exercise. What purpose means to me is, and you just write whatever comes to mind. And if nothing comes to mind, you keep writing. What purpose means to me is, and you just keep answering that question. Because you'll find that purpose can mean different things to different people. For some people, purpose means a job. For some people, it means a vocation, which can be two very different things. One can just be a way to earn money. Another can be something you feel deeply called to do. I like to say, and I believe, that first and foremost, and I could be wrong, people, but I like to believe that first and foremost, we're here for the evolution of our own consciousness. We're here to grow and evolve, to become more conscious, to become more aware of who we are on a deeper and deeper level, to be more authentic in the world, to express ourselves fully and honestly and authentically. So I find that when I focus on that as my purpose is to show up, to be connected, to be present, to actually really listen to people, to really listen to myself, to be authentic in my expression, to tell the truth, to speak up. I find that what I'm meant to do begins to reveal itself to me. So the more we spend time focused on our purpose being about really getting to know ourselves on a deeper level, building a loving, respectful relationship with ourselves, engaging in activities, whether it's deep conversation with friends, journaling, therapy, coaching, going to personal growth workshops, reading books, personal development type books, checking under the hood, right? Looking at what we can do, how we can get to know ourselves better. To me, that's the most important purpose. Now, from an entrepreneurial perspective, as someone who's worked with many entrepreneurs and continues to coach entrepreneurs through some of the angel investing that I do, I can tell you, Emma, that who somebody is deeply influences their level of success. So early on in my coaching career, I used to say that I would help people to grow their businesses by growing themselves. And the reason I did that was because my work with entrepreneurs taught me that what got in the way of somebody reaching the next level of success wasn't the right marketing strategy necessarily, or the best elevator pitch, or the most marketable product. It was their own lack of growth, an improved sense of worthiness, becoming a more effective communicator, cultivating sensitivity towards other, sensitivity about how they came across to others, becoming more financially responsible. Some of the entrepreneurs I work with, I'm teaching them about money, about reading, profit and loss statements and understanding balance sheets and getting a handle on their financial situation, making sure they know if they're profitable, what their product actually cost, what their profit margin is. All of these sorts of things are an investment in becoming more aware and informed and educated as an entrepreneur, both on the practical side, but also on the personal development side. So as you get to know yourself better and more deeply and consistently, what you've come here to do reveals itself. That's what I'll say about purpose. Hope that's helpful, Emma. All right, let's see. Hi, Marilyn. I will tell Michael and Poupon you say hello. Thank you, Helen. Let's see. Jade says, I'm struggling with being cluttered and disorganized. I'll get everything in order, but it never lasts. No consistently return to the self-created chaos. Oh, no consistency. I return to the self-created chaos. So frustrating. Any tips? Yes, thank you. So Jade, first of all, I'm going to make a note. My sister Kerri, who is a coach, Kerri Richardson, of course, Kerri Richardson, has a book coming out in August by Hay House, and it's called What Your Clutter is Trying to Tell You. And I'll put her clutter book in the post when we're done here. I would really encourage you, if you go to kerririchandson.com, it's Kerri, kerririchandson.com. She's a master at understanding clutter on a deeper level. So there's two things that are important. Number one is really understanding what your clutter is trying to tell you. And Kerri considers clutter not just physical stuff, but limiting beliefs and just negative self-perceptions that we have, and negative self-talk. And so I like the fact that she explores clutter on a deeper level. That's important, because if you don't deal with the source of the problem and you're only dealing with the symptoms, which is trying to get boxes emptied, let's say, then what's going to happen is you're never going to get to the source of the problem. It's always going to come back. So I would recommend that if you go to her website, she also has a clutter course that she's running. I don't know if it's open now or not, but I think you'll find What Your Clutter is Trying to Tell You by Kerri Richardson. It'll be in August. It'll be out in August. I think you'll find that incredibly helpful. I read the manuscript and was just so thrilled to see somebody covering clutter in a different way. It's not enough to just go, hey, here's how you get organized. Get rid of everything you don't love or need. It's a lot deeper than that. So, and it is frustrating because in addition to what I like about her work is, in addition to dealing with the inner stuff, the inner clutter that's going on, she also looks at what you need to do in order to create systems so that it doesn't keep creating itself. So I think that will be helpful, Jade. The most important thing I'll say to you right now is, can you love yourself even though you have a problem with clutter? Can you really embrace this issue, knowing that there's something going on that you may not be aware of? And it will be tended to and addressed successfully with much more with love than with self-loathing. If beating ourselves up worked, we would all be rich, happy, and thin. Let me say that again. If beating ourselves up worked, we would all be rich, happy, and thin. It just doesn't work that way. Love, self-love, and acceptance is always the beginning. And I'm sure that you can find a lot of resources. Kerri also has a blog. So sign up for her blog, and I know you'll see there's lots of resources there so that you don't have to wait until August. All right, I hope that's helpful. Let's see. So Elena says, Cheryl, do you think that having a partner like you, who must be willing to do the self-help work and spiritual work, is contributing to spiritual growth? I was told that having the exact opposite partner from you, who's not interested in healing, but does different activities, will tremendously contribute to great tolerance and understanding and spiritual growth? It's a really good question, Elena. What I would say is there are ways in which Michael and I are very, very different. And the work that we've done together has helped us to see the invitation, the gift that we present to each other through our differences. For example, when I first met Michael, he was somebody who, he's tunnel vision, and he's a guy. So he could have stuff everywhere. Like, he's somebody who's very sentimental, and he would hang on to everything. And I don't like clutter, and I like things to be neat and clean and organized. And we would always argue because he always wanted to have a whole bunch of stuff, let's say on the kitchen counter, and I would always be complaining that I wanted visual clarity. I wanted to feel at peace by seeing only clear space. Once we started doing our work together, and we fought about it a lot in the beginning, absolutely, I was a real bitch about it. Once we started doing our work together, what I realized was there's a way in which Michael can let go and focus on things that need to be focused on without getting caught up in getting everything organized first, that I needed to learn. Or, for example, we'd be having dinner with friends at the house, and after the meal, I'd want to jump up and like clean everything up, and he just wanted to stay and talk and just leave the mess there. And I realized that, he really had something to teach me. I needed to chill out. I needed to take a breath. I needed to just, let go and not be so concerned about getting everything done and always. So there was a way in which understanding that how we were opposite was extending invitations to each of us to grow. Michael needed to become more organized. I needed to become less anal. And there's so many examples of that. So I don't think, I think if you're somebody who wants to grow and evolve, being with somebody who says they don't is a recipe for trouble. I think it's a recipe for disaster. Being with somebody who says that they want to grow and evolve, they don't know how, but they're open, and then appreciating each other's differences or looking at how those differences can really support each other is actually, or looking at how those differences in each other can be developed, how your difference from me is an invitation for me to explore that side of myself. I actually think that really contributes to spiritual growth. I hope that makes sense, Elena. I know that I suspect English isn't your first language, so maybe you could replay this, and I hope that I'm making sense to you. Okay, let me see. Thank you, Alan. I miss my show on Hay House too. This is sort of like the next best thing for now. I am exploring some other avenues of interacting with people. So stay. If you don't get my newsletter, please do subscribe at CherylRichardson.com because you'll be the first to know about them. So let's see. What else do we have here? Okay, so Owen says, "Hi Cheryl, I made the move from the UK to Ontario 8 years ago, and your books were very helpful. Thank you." You're very welcome, Owen. "I'm now 42 and in a position that once my contract comes to an end in October, I could take 18 months off without having to touch my long-term savings. I'd like to take a year off before I look for work again, have some time to totally decompress, to actually enjoy next summer without having to be in an office, to work on myself, to work on my body, to lose some weight. My partner is supportive," and then you got cut off, Owen. I don't know what your question is. Let's say that there's some things to think about. I would encourage you to maybe have a meeting with a financial planner to see if it makes sense for you to take that much time off without any income coming in, without knowing your financial situation. It's one thing to not have to touch long-term savings. It's another thing to miss a year of contributing to a retirement account that needs money. So you might want to meet with a financial planner. I've recommended before, and I'll put her down, Melissa Sweet is a woman in Massachusetts who is a fee-based financial planner. It means you pay her a fee and she looks at your whole financial picture. She has no vested interest in any investment, so she's not trying to steer you in any direction. She is really able, she's helped a lot of friends and family members really look at their whole financial situation. I just think the responsible thing to do, Owen, would be to look at what taking a year off would be. It might be that taking 6 months off would be better. It might be that a year is totally fine and then you can do it stress-free. So, but here's the other thing I want to say to you, Owen, and this is important for everybody. Very often, if we live and work in such a way that we're under stress all the time, we can't wait for that vacation or that sabbatical to finally get our act together. The real challenge is to learn how to practice good self-care in real life, with a job, with the day-to-day responsibilities that you have. Because if you don't, it's kind of like relationships. If you don't do the work in one relationship and the relationship ends, you're probably going to meet the same person in the next relationship because the work's got to be done. So while you're still working now, between now and October, I would be looking at, how do I need to maybe work differently? Like maybe I need to make sure I take lunch breaks every single day. Maybe I need to put some boundaries around the hours that I work. Maybe I need to learn to delegate better. Maybe I need to, let my boss know that I can't take on a 5th project if I'm going to get the first 4 done successfully. Like, how do you need to change the way you are in your life right now so that when it comes time to take time off, you're doing it maybe to get to know yourself in an even deeper level? And, like you said, I mean, that's the other thing. You say you want to lose weight. Well, how can you change your habits now so that you're able to support your physical health even while you're working? Does that make sense, Owen? I think, in other words, what I'm saying is, too often when we reach a point where we're so overwhelmed and stressed in life, we look for what do I want to say? We look for we tend to go to the other extreme and look for like a dramatic change that will compensate for the peace that we're not having right now. And that's always a little dangerous, because the real test is to find the peace and the health and the balance, whatever that means for you, the ability to focus your life on what really matters now, instead of waiting until you're not working. It might mean you need a different kind of job as well, different kind of work. Anyway, let's see. Annette wants to know, are you going to do a session on mala beads? I'm not, but I mentioned Bob Olson's book, which is called The Magic Mala. A lot of people have read it and told me that they really loved it and that they've gone out and bought themselves a set of mala beads. Where are mine? Here's some that I have here. These are my my blue lapis ones that I love. The last time I did a Facebook Live, I realized I had some turquoise mala beads in my hands, and I was doing this, and I didn't even know it. And when I went back to listen to some of the Facebook Live, I could hear the beads in my hands going back and forth. I thought, oh gosh, I have to remember to keep them out of my hands. So I'm not planning on doing a session, but Annette, I would recommend that you pick up a copy of The Magic Mala. Bob and I did have a conversation about it. I was at his house for dinner, and he's got a recording studio in his house, and I ended up going into the studio with him, and we had a conversation about using the mala and his book and the things that happen as a result of really focusing your attention on what you're grateful for and what you want to bring into your life. So I'll post the info, and I'll post a link to that podcast as well when I'm done. And that will give you good information about using the mala. So, okay, great. Kathy, thank you for posting Kerri's. Kerri does, convos with Kerri on Monday nights, and she talks about clearing clutter. So that would be a great resource for people too. Thank you. Let's see what else we have. Hi, Diana from Vancouver. I love Vancouver. Let's see. Jade, I try my best to love my imperfections, even though it's so tough. I've done a lot of inner child work. I've come leaps and bounds, but the clutter is sticking around. I'll go to the website and look forward to the book in August. Yeah, that's going to be really helpful, Jade. I think it really will. Okay, let's see. Rainey says, hi Cheryl, can you shed some light on this? I asked my partner to have lunch with my friend whom I haven't seen in 25 years, but he said he's not interested. I feel ashamed to see my friend without my husband. Well, that's an interesting thing. I wonder why he's not interested. Did you ask him? Did you tell him that it was important to you? That you really felt like you wanted, that this friendship is something you'd like to share with him, and that it was really important for you to be there? I mean, if I told Michael that I had a friend that I really wanted him to meet, he could certainly tell me that he wasn't interested, but he'd have to say why. Is he really busy? Is he, not able to afford the time? Is he afraid it's just going to be like two girls chatting and he's going to be bored? Like, what might it be, and how might we address that? So, and I also I don't know, again, Rainey, I don't know if you're from the U.S. or not, because I'm wondering if you're from a different culture. So I want to be sensitive to that. I may just go and see my friend on my own. But I think it needs further discussion. It needs further discussion. Yeah, I wouldn't just settle for that, obviously. I think you need to talk more about it. Owen says, my partner is supportive of my year off, but is concerned that I won't use the time constructively. Do you have any thoughts on what you might do to use the time well, and how can I put his fears aside? Well, I don't know what that means, use the time constructively. I think it would be important to sit down and talk about what that means. What does he hope that you will accomplish during this period? I suspect, with this added piece of advice, Owen, that it may be that you've been grumbling about wanting to make some changes for a while, whether it's at work or with your health, and your partner hasn't seen a lot of forward movement. So he's concerned that, he's just concerned about what's going to happen in that regard. I also would want to explore further whether your partner really is okay with you taking a year off, if he's concerned about the loss of income, because I think that wanting to make sure you're using that time constructively needs to be well defined, and also there needs to be the space for this person, for your partner, to be able to tell the truth about whether or not he's actually okay with the loss of income for a year. It's a lot, in partnerships, we've got to take our partners into account, married, living together, connected in some kind of an intimate way. You've got to take your partner's feelings into account. Otherwise, resentment's going to build, and it's not going to be fun for either one of you. So I think that needs more exploration. Sonia says, I took your advice and left my job because of the narcissistic, and best advice ever. Thank you. I've been following you for 30 years. You were my first famous inspirational mentor. I just love you. Oh, thank you, Sonia. I love you too. And I'm glad you took care of yourself. That's great. Alan says, Cheryl, I hate it when people don't answer emails or phone calls. Not friends, usually customer service issues. Any tips? Yeah, do business with different people, Alan. I don't mean to be glib about that, but it's we've been having some different work done on our house, and it's always tricky when you're trying to get contractors to work on a house. I go out of my way to treat people really well with respect and kindness. I pay people on time, and I just let people know that up front, that here's the kind of service that I'm hoping to get. Here's how I'll respond as a result of that service. And I'd just like to know, how responsive you're able to be. How busy are you? Do you have enough time and space for a new client? Are you able to return phone calls? If not, then it might very well be that that you need to do business with other people. I mean, I have been known to complain about customer service ain't what it used to be, Alan. I find it isn't. But there's plenty of companies who really want your business. You might have to do a little work to find them, but I mean, I wouldn't like it if people didn't respond. If it were customer service related, I wouldn't like it if people didn't respond to my phone calls or emails. And if they didn't, I mean, first of all, there's lots of email issues happening right now. I have people, especially on Gmail, who haven't been getting my emails sometimes because I send out a blog. Sometimes it gets put into a promotion folder, so people always have to go in and find it and whitelist it. So sometimes that's the issue, and I've certainly had that with customer service issues. But otherwise, I'd be looking for other people to do business with. Okay. Okay, so Frank says, my client list is dwindling away, so much so that besides consulting, I've been taking on low-pay retail work to pay the bills. Well, it's great that you're doing something, Frank. I've been considering going back into a corporate employee status. How does one decide to give up the dream profession for a paycheck or to push on and keep faith it will work? Well, in some ways, Frank, I often approach this question very practically, and that is, whenever you're trying to grow a business, whether it's a service business where you've got clients or sell products, better to do so without a lot of stress. Better to do so when you have a consistent source of income coming in, because otherwise you're under stress a lot, and that's not the way to grow a business. Sometimes, Frank, I find, having dealt with coaches and therapists and people who have service businesses, when the clients start to dwindle away, sometimes it's an indication that it's time for you to reassess your work, your choices about work, the kind of work you're doing. It might be that it's time for an upgrade or a change. It could be that you need to identify who your ideal clients are and move more in that direction. And at the same time, have a part-time job that will bring in a consistent source of income. Anytime anybody's trying to grow a business, I always say, don't quit your day job and make sure you have a consistent source of income coming in. Otherwise, you're going to suffer. And your clients are going to know it. Because the energy, when our clients' numbers start to dwindle and we start to get scared, that's the energy we're putting out. We're putting out this scared energy, and suddenly we're just not putting out this kind of abundant, happy, grateful energy. So I don't think it's a bad thing that you're getting some retail work right now to pay the bills. And you know what, Frank? Maybe, without knowing your situation, it might be that you do want to get a corporate job for a period while you explore what's next for you. Is it still a dream profession? The IRS says that if you don't make money 3 out of 5 years, if you lose money 3 out of 5 years, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. So I always remember that from my old tax days. And I think that if the business isn't, it might be great for you to consider working, even having a couple of coaching sessions, Frank, to explore. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at Kerri's website, every now and then she'll do coaching, laser coaching, where you can just hire her for a session. You might want to do that, like hire a coach for a couple of sessions and just explore what's going on, and maybe what you might need to do differently in order to attract more clients and maybe make some changes in your business. Because you don't want to be scared, and clients can feel desperation even without us saying anything. So you want to make sure that you've got some good money coming in so that you're not afraid. Let's see. Okay, let me see what time it is. Okay, I need to leave just before 7, so yeah, The Magic Mala. Hi, Lee, that's correct, M-A-L-A, The Magic Mala by Bob Olson. Sorry, I don't know if I said his name, Bob Olson. Let's see. Okay. Kevin says, do you have any recommendations for those who are interested in moving forward after a long-term relationship ends? Learning lessons, recovering, trusting again. Yeah, Kevin, I do. Long-term relationships ending is one of the hardest things we go through. It's really hard and really challenging. And I have a lot of empathy for dealing with that situation. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who know what that's like, and I'm sure there are people listening going through the same thing right now. As a matter of fact, if you are, just give a thumbs up so that Kevin knows he's not alone. So a few things I'd recommend, Kevin. You know, for me, the best things I've done in the past is gone into therapy after a long-term relationship ended to kind of reverse engineer that relationship. What happened? Why did it go south? Look at all these thumbs up, Kevin. Look at these. You're not alone. And the hearts, people sending you hearts. What do I have to learn? Yes, from this relationship. What was my part in the ending of it? What was I looking for that I didn't get? You know, how was I being challenged, and how do I need to grow? These are some of the things that I'd be exploring. Depending on the scenario, on the resources might be different, but I do think, because relationships give us some of our best, relationships are some of our best learning grounds. I think that there's a lot of wisdom to be culled from the ending of a relationship, and it will also really prepare you for the next relationship and for learning to trust again. The interesting thing, Kevin, about relationships is that we often feel like we'll never trust another again, but it's really about trusting ourselves first. Can you trust yourself to pick a good partner? Can you trust yourself to pick a partner who is committed to their own growth and will work through things with you? Can you trust yourself to handle the inevitable challenges that are going to come up? So the trusting again, I always like to really put the emphasis on me. How will I build a trusting relationship with myself? How will I let the young parts of me know that I'm here to take care of them, and that I'll make sure that I put us in the company of healthy people who are going to be supportive and loving and committed to their own growth? And therapy is one of the ways that I've done that. There's a book I always recommend. It's called Coming Apart. I'm just writing it down so I remember to put it in the post. And it's by Daphne Rose Kingma. Coming Apart. If you look it up on Amazon, you'll see it. Daphne Rose Kingma, Kingma. I think that'd be a great book to read, Kevin. I haven't read it in a long time. I always joke that one of my old boyfriends who broke up with me sent me that book to help me get over the breakup. And at first I was really pissed. I'm like, really? Are you kidding me? And then I read it and I was like, this is the best thing this guy ever did, because I got over him. So yes, use it as a time for healing. Please don't jump into another relationship right away. Give yourself a chance to really cull the wisdom from this one and do the necessary healing work. And I promise you your next relationship will be better because of it, for sure. Kimberly Ann, can you please shed some light on the matter of my home selling soon? Well, Kimberly, here's what I can tell you about that. The reason I decided to answer your question was when Michael and I were ready to sell our house, the house we lived in before we moved into this one. We wanted to sell it as quickly as possible, and we loved the house. Michael had built it. He was building his bachelor pad, and I screwed that up when I met him, and we ended up falling in love, and I ended up moving in with him and getting married. So, but we both really loved the house, and we wanted the house to sell quickly, and we also wanted it to sell to good people, people that would appreciate the house. And I spoke to, I think it was Denise Lynn, my friend Denise Lynn, who I love, who's a feng shui expert. And I had studied some feng shui. And what I did was I took a picture of the house in really great shape. So it was a picture that we used for one of the listings. It had my tulip garden out front in full bloom. And the house just looked so pretty. It was a sunny day. And I took a picture. And then I printed it out. I put the selling price, the listing price, on the picture with the plus sign after it so that it would sell for that price or more. And then I hung that picture up in the back left-hand corner of my home. So coming into the house, the front door, the very back left-hand corner of the house, from feng shui purposes, is the abundance part of the house, the abundance section. So I hung that picture up, and I lit a little candle, and then I wrote out an affirmation that says, our house sells quickly and easily to the perfect people who love and appreciate it like we do, or something like that. And so I put all of that in the wealth corner of the house. Then we got the house ready. I had it all cleaned and all the paint touched up inside. I smudged it with sage. Michael and I went through the house. I kind of made him do this part, but he was like such a great buddy and did it with me. I mean, I had to like encourage him to do this part. We went room to room and thanked each room. We had moved out of the house. We thanked each room and revisited memories. And then we put the house on the market. And do you know, Kimberly, that house, it went on the market, and within one day we had 3 offers. And we sold it. One of the offers was for over the asking price, and we sold it right away just like that. And we had 3 backup offers waiting if the first one didn't go through. So I always remember that story. It was an awesome story. I tell it all the time. The difference is people hear the story, but they don't do what I did. And what have you got to lose? But take a really pretty picture, put the listing price. Oh, and I also wrote sold over the picture. That's the other thing I wanted to say. So that's what I have to say about getting your house sold soon. How's that? Thank you, Owen. I'm glad it was helpful. Yes, Bob Olson is Olson. Let's see. Okay, you know what? I have to end, people. I have to end. So let me do this. I know, I see your questions here. And I just realized I have somebody coming to the house in 5 minutes. So let me just say this, a couple of things. First of all, we just opened my next retreat for registration. It's happening in October. It's called Healthcare by the Sea. This one is focused on falling in love with your body. It's focused on all of the kinds of questions and things that we have to explore related to this beautiful vehicle that carries us through life. So I've invited Susan Dowdy, who is a wonderful nurse practitioner, a woman's nurse practitioner, to join me. Susan is really smart. She was my doctor for a long time. She's retired now, and I mean, she hasn't retired. She left her practice, and she's now doing this work. And she's going to be joining me, and we're going to talk about everything body-related, body, mind, and spirit. She's a huge fan of Abraham, has been following Abraham forever, and so she really gets the mind-body connection, and I'm excited for the retreat, and that'll just be a couple of months before my book comes out in December. I'm so happy that my publisher has got it, made it available before Christmas so that people can get it for Christmas gifts. So Healthcare by the Sea, I'll put a link up for the retreat by the sea, so you can register if you're interested. It's limited to 50 women. And what else do I want to say to you? I want to say that I want to send my love to London, everyone in London. I've been talking to my friends there who are recovering from another horrific experience. And I know there are so many around the world, Afghanistan, the bombings there, and, here in Orlando again. I mean, just my heart breaks, and yet I allow my heart to break, and then I remember that the energy we put out into the world matters. And I pray and I see the world as healed and at peace. And just imagine putting that energy out into the world. So anyway, I appreciate very much all of you being here with me, as I always do. I'll see you next week. Please, if you're not already subscribed to my weekly newsletter, that's how you'll find out about the Facebook posts and anything else I'm up to. You can just look right up there. I always say, look up there. See the blue sign up button? You can sign up right there. And in the meantime, I'll be back in touch with you next week. Thank you so much for being with me. I appreciate it. Take good care, be grateful, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.